Hey there, welcome and thanks for checking out this video. This is a demo of an oil painting that I did of a couple of friends of mine. The first thing I'm doing here is I have just put a grid on the canvas and I'm sketching out just the layout based on this gridded portrait, and now erasing the grid. And now this is the underpainting. I'm trying to emphasize the kind of highlights and shadows as I'm going through here. Also on the underpainting, I've used odorless mineral spirits, which with your oil medium dry much quicker, and then you can get going with after a few days of laying on your actual oil paints. So I started with the background here, and I'm trying to build up from behind as I'm going through here now that I'm using my oil medium. I'm trying to keep in mind on getting my background laid out so that way as I move forward into the midground and then my main figures and then the foreground, I'm working from back to front so that all of my edges are nice and sharp whenever I'm painting. For example, right here where I'm painting his hat, I've already got the background all painted in so that the edges of his hat are nice and sharp. This was an interesting painting to do because it really felt like I was doing about 10 different paintings. Like the lamps in the background felt like their own thing, and then the figures at the booth on the right felt like their own painting. Zach's hat felt like its own painting. Doing his face felt like its own painting. I guess just in the sense that most of the time whenever I do work, I'm painting like one figure or one thing, and this was a much more complicated scene, so each time I kind of had to prep myself to go in and start a new thing. Oil is very interesting in that it is sort of a mixture of watercolor and acrylic paint in the way that it works together. It's similar to watercolor just because you can build the colors over and over. This is not a great example right now, but I'm sorry, it's the afternoon and I'm tired. You can see on his face I added a bunch of different colors. Doing the script on that hat was very stressful. It was a good practice though to get me ready for doing the script on his shirt and also for going in whenever I eventually did his tattoos. So here for his hands and his I was really excited about the setup of Zach's hands in this picture. I started to put a base color on there and then worked my way in with some different layers to form the shadows and the distinctions between his fingers. You can see that as you add on some new medium, you can really kind of blend it into the existing medium with your brush. So back to the acrylic and watercolor conversation. Oil is so interesting because it just doesn't dry quickly. You can keep blending in more colors to increase your subtlety or increase whatever. And you have a lot of time to work with it. At the same time, that is kind of problematic. For example, if you make a big mistake, such as I did here whenever I was doing his tattoo, you have to really sort of glob paint on to cover it up. I really enjoyed doing this tattoo. It was fun getting the layout on there and then going in and adding the color in. Thought it ended up pretty distinct and I was pretty happy with it. And also, even though I, was working over layers of wet paint that I had laid down to make the skin, I was able to kind of add a lot of oil to my medium for laying the outline and the color, and I was able to lay it on top of the still wet paint. But you had to be careful not to work it too much, otherwise it would end up blending into the skin color. I was anxious about painting Graham's head just because I had never really painted a head like his before. Also, you can see I really made a couple of mistakes whenever I was doing my underpainting. I wasn't super precise with it. I thought it would be okay, but the moral is you should probably be more precise with your outline and your underpainting, because if you can see there, I kind of had to shift a couple of his eyes. I didn't spend a whole lot of time on my underpainting. I would just kind of slopped it on to prep the canvas. And so, it can be okay, but you'll probably have noticed on both of these, the frames of his glasses, I basically kind of erased them and repaint them by painting over them. I definitely made them too thick. I don't know if I would even recommend even sketching them on. You could sketch them on, but maybe don't necessarily underpaint them or do it with a super fine brush. It's really interesting painting faces with oil because you basically are building up these colors. It almost feels like sculpture. There's a three-dimensionality to layering on the paint, kind of working it on kind of thickly, and that especially happens both with his nose here, but also whenever I painted his beard. It really, there's texture within the beard that like looks like hair, but actually is physical texture. So here I had to paint kind of the part where you could see his skin more, so I did that as a bottom layer and then went over with kind of the darker layers to make sure that the skin showed through where it needed to. Also on Zach's beard, the other beard over there, I used a similar technique where I laid some base color and then I sort of used a dry brush to get those real thin kind of wispy paint strokes on there. So I did a similar thing with Graham's beard here. Oh, also this is a portrait mode photo that just flashed up there. That's why that looked so blurry in the background and picturesque. You can take a picture with portrait mode, it'll make it look kind of funny. Going in here on his shirt, I laid down the base color and then went in and, you know, just sketched in all of the different lines that were on his shirt. When you take it all in as a whole, I think it looks okay. They weren't super nice, but okay. Then I moved on to the kettle over here. The really interesting thing about painting metal is that it can seem really challenging to do, but if you slow down and just focus on the colors that are there and making sure you're painting what you see and not what you think you see, you know, you can make a thing look like a burnished metal. You know, just focus on, okay, this is a streak highlight here, here's some darker tones, here's some lighter tones. You just layer it in by what you see. I felt pretty good about the kettle. Not super pumped on that mug, but whatever. And also somehow I deleted I think I forgot to hit record whenever I was painting the wood grain on here. The next challenge, there were a lot of different challenges in this painting. The final challenge was to paint these two glasses of water. The main focus here was on, you know, focusing on painting what I saw, not what I thought I saw. Focusing on seeing, okay, I can see his arm through there, so I'm going to paint his arm, and then noting where the shirt was reflected, noting where dark shapes were reflected. And, you know, this is the interesting thing with especially this clearest glass, this was kind of green a little bit. But, you know, glass really just takes the color of what's around it. So it's kind of a unique item to paint. It's very interesting. I did enjoy the different challenges in this painting though. Painting figures with glasses, painting beards, painting glasses with water. I was pretty happy with how it turned out in the end. And I would have gone through probably and put a couple more passes on it to get some fine detail, but we had a snow day, and actually a few snow days, and so the painting was at school while I was at home, and so it was a lot more dry than it should have been. Here's a shot of my really dirty workspace. Here's a shot of the painting back in the beginning, kind of where we started with the super rough underpainting. Moving on to now, you can really see the texture in the beard in that one. Here is Zach as an underpainting, and here he is. Oh, this was portrait mode again, making it look super classy. I really like his cowboy hat. That's some swag from an Orville Peck concert. Yeah, there you can see the fine detail on the beard, fine detail on his tattoo there. Thanks for watching. Hope this was helpful.